Liveline on RTE Radio 1 with a Kia e-Soul. Going electric? Stop wondering and start driving. The Kia e-Soul with a range up to 452 kilometres.
1850 715 815.
Hello, good afternoon, and you're very welcome to Liveline. They are a protected species under the Wildlife Act of 1976, the pine marten. The pine marten, very rare, very elusive. The adults live on their own. They only get together when they mate, so to speak, and off they go again. But Joanne in Leitrim. Joanne, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe. How are you?
What happened?
On Wednesday morning, Joe, I went out to our family car and just greeted with the car was absolutely destroyed. It was all soiled. There was parts of the car, the leather of the car, eaten away. The car seats the kids sit on, they were all soiled, and the roof was all pulled down. In the back where the kids sit, underneath the wind or the visors, the sun visors in front of the car, all the roof was just destroyed, chunks taken out of it. The floor has been ripped up off the car as well, Joe. So I went in to my husband and he came out and he started to pull the car apart, and I had shopping bags in the back of the car, the Aldi ones with the foil inside, you know.
Okay.
And as he went to pull out the shopping bag, he jumped out of it and he ran up the centre of the car.
Oh, you saw the culprit?
Yeah, we saw him. Oh, yeah, we saw him.
And he or she was clearly an adult pine marten.
Oh, it was a big, it was like a substantial size, Joe, now. You know, like I just saw him and he darted through the centre of the seats and he ran up then onto the floor and went in underneath the brake or the pedals of the car and just disappeared. So we just knew that he was still in the car. So Fergus closed all the doors straight away. And he was inside in the car, like we don't know whether he was at the back of the radio or he was in the glove compartment area. He wasn't in the glove compartment, he was behind it. He had found some little spot and stayed there. And he didn't venture out, Joe, on all that day. We set put in a cage and we put some food into it, and he never came out at all that whole day. Fergus covered the car in black polythene and tried to lure him out, I suppose, to make him think that it was night time, but he didn't. And that night before we went to bed, Fergus went out to check the car and he wasn't in the cage. There was no sign of him. But Fergus went out at about 3:00 and he could hear him in the car, and he had done like loads of damage.
He was off again. He was walking away again.
He was working away again, Joe. Yeah, he was. Fergus didn't know whereabouts he was, but he could hear him, like, you know.
And what, did we hear him gnawing? Is that it, or?
Gnawing and I don't know, whatever noises they make. But he was busy at work, like ripping up parts of the car as well. Like, obviously Fergus was afraid, like, as
and
well.
It's a big car. It's a Kia Carens. That's a 7-seater.
It's a 7-seater, yeah.
And is it destroyed?
I should have actually said, Joe, actually, when Fergus went out, he was in the bag that is just directly behind or beside the seat that my son sits in every day, you know. So like I was bringing my son down to Cool Camps that morning, so Louis would have sat in the seat. And the bags were just behind him.
Yeah, but I don't think do pine martens attack humans?
Well, I don't know, Joe. I didn't wait around to see.
Is your car? And what's the state of your car now?
Oh, it's destroyed. It's absolutely destroyed.
Wow!
I'm
sorry, your
terrified.
phone line is going in and out. Is it a write-off?
Well, I can't ever see us being able to sell it on at this stage, Joe, because there's such a substantial amount of damage done.
Does it still
the
move?
ignition starts, but the airbag is on. He has et the wire for the airbag on the passenger side.
That's the end of it.
So, it's it's a huge amount of damage. I rang my insurance company, and they just wiped their hands off it, Joe, and they said that it's not covered because
Why not?
Because he's vermin, they said, and I asked, he's wildlife and he's vermin. And I said, are all wildlife animals referred to as vermin? And she told me no. I asked her why he was vermin. She said because he ate rodents. And I asked her to give me...
But the pine marten is the rarest mammal native to Ireland.
And protected.
And protected. You cannot kill them.
No.
So you can kill rats.
Yeah.
You can kill mice.
Yeah. Absolutely, Joe, yeah.
You can kill a farmer, can kill a fox. Mm-hmm. There are nearly 300,000 legally held guns in Ireland, shotguns, for killing foxes and other vermin. So why would the state decide that we are protecting a rat? That no one can kill a rat?
I have no idea, Joe.
Because he's not a rat. Now,
I've asked them to put in writing.
How did he get into the car?
I have absolutely no idea, Joe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Was there anything in the car that would have attracted him? Any food? Any smells? What was the smell in the car?
Well, I suppose, we have an air freshener in the car. I don't know.
What fragrance is the air freshener?
I don't know. I think it's a little Chubba Chub kind of an air freshener that I have in it for the kids.
Would it be you see, they love berries, apparently. Yeah. Would there have been the smell of strawberries, raspberries
or something?
From the Chubba Chubba in the car?
Easily, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's that kind of a.
So the car, I'm looking. It's a 132 Kia car, and it was in great condition. I'm looking up websites earlier. It's worth at least 10 grand. Now it's more to replace it, unfortunately for you, but to buy a new one. To buy a 132, and we don't know what condition it's in, will cost you at least 10 grand.
Yeah, and Joe, the funds aren't there. We didn't anticipate this. We insure our car in good faith, every year. Right on the button, it's fully comprehensive. It's a good policy insofar as that my no claims bonus.
It's the 7th year you use it for school runs and football runs, and you bring the neighbours and whatever. It's really important. Stay with us, Joanne. Joanne is in County Leitrim. You don't want to use your second name at this stage, Joanne. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not if I can, Joe. Okay. Sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine. But are you embarrassed about it, or?
I am, I suppose.
Why?
Well, it's our family car.
It's the last thing you'd expect. Yeah.
I'm Joe. To be honest with you, I'm totally rattled by it. To be honest, I'm devastated. I didn't expect it, and then you ring your insurance company and you pay it out. You hope that. Then when something happens to you, that they'll look after you. And they literally wiped their hands off the situation and told me it wasn't covered.
I think you mentioned to me there, you're going to appeal it. They kind of dismissed you pretty sharply, didn't they? Oh no, pine marten is a vermin. It's not.
I don't think initially when I rang that they were even kind of. I had to tell them twice or 3 times that it was a pine marten and what I was talking about, and
you were saying
I actually had to spell Martin to the girl that was on the phone as well.
Why, did you think it was a relative of Dean Martin or something? Then it's Marten, pine marten.
Yeah, that's right.
Pine. Well, I'm sure they haven't heard it before. A pine marten ate my car, because that's what's happened. He's destroyed your car. It's gone. It's a write-off.
Yeah, they said
Tony
they
Bourne. Okay,
1850
71 live 715
Thank you, Joe.
Just stay there, Joanne. Tony Bourne. Good afternoon, Tony.
Hi, Joe. Good afternoon to you.
Who ate your car?
Well, Joe, this is a remarkable story just to hear exactly that lady's experience, but in a similar sort of way. Years ago, you might remember the last bad experience we had in winter. I had retired from business, and I was able to realise my ambition to get myself a Mercedes S-Class.
Okay.
I had used it the night before. It was February, and I had used it the night before, and I came in, and that was fine. Went out the next day. It was bad weather. We needed some groceries, and I decided I'd dip down to the local shop. And as soon as I started the ignition in the car, everything within the car started to work. The wiper started to work. The windows started to go up and down. The sliding roof opened. I thought it was a Mr. Bean experience I was having, right?
A prank.
Absolutely. It was amazing. And all the lights on the dash were full. Every light on the dash was full, indicating that there was a problem. I managed to get the car home and such, and I rang my local dealer, who very kindly came out and collected the car. And they rang me the following day and they said, well, we've some good news and we've some bad news for you. And I said, well, what's the bad news? And they said, well, you've had rodent damage to your car. I said, explain that to me. And they said, well, a rodent has got into your car and has chewed your loom, and as a result, the entire mechanism within the car, the computerization system and the loom will have to be replaced.
Wow.
The car, Joe, was 18 months old, right? I eventually obviously notified my insurance company. They came out. The assessor looked at it. Because of the actual complications with the computerization in the car, the garage couldn't give 100% guarantee that even if they replaced everything that needed to be, that it would be correct.
Wow.
After a discussion with the assessor and myself, the company wrote off the car, Joe.
Value?
€65,000.
My God.
Right? And amazing, absolutely amazing. And Joe, what was even more amazing, the car was crushed, Joe.
So they couldn't guarantee whatever they did to that car, they could make it safe again.
Absolutely.
Safety.
Couldn't guarantee that. As you can imagine with the complicated issues, because Mercedes spend $1 million a day on, as I say, research. But you would have sincerely thought that, somewhere there would have been a section that could have been put in to replace the one that was damaged. But no, the entire loom from back to front, with all the elements that was in it, had to be replaced. That means the car had to be basically stripped to its bare shell and virtually rebuilt, Joe.
And did they, like you say, it was crushed, did they not even break it up for spares, Tony?
No, that was the most amazing thing. I had to then subsequently sign a certificate to say that it was crushed, and that was it was only then that the value of the car was agreed, and in that sense I was fortunate.
Yeah.
And I will make a comment on that other lady, your first lady.
Joanne, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. In a comprehensive situation, Joe, the usual terminology in a car is loss of or damage to.
Okay.
And therefore, with due respects, she has damage to her car, and most companies I don't know, I've never heard of that exclusion before, but possibly it's there.
So who destroyed your €65,000 worth of Mercedes?
Well, Joe, I subsequently made a few inquiries just for the sake of getting a little bit of knowledge, and apparently I drove in the car the night before. It was warm, it was hot. And consequently, apparently a rat or a rodent or something can detect heat from a reasonable distance. They probably thought they had a good bed for the night. They got into where the car was warm.
Yeah, it was a cold night, yeah.
Right, absolutely. And then they decided that, this is very nice. There's food here as well. And they had to go with the loom, and they virtually eat through the entire loom.
And the loom, as we know, is the centre of a car now. No car can...
It's what carries all the actual control.
Hundreds of wires.
Thousands the electronics and everything,
in a certain sequence.
Yeah, so, I was...
But did it,
my beautiful car was crushed and written off.
But for Joanne's information, your insurance company paid up.
Yes, they did. Absolutely, and I have to compliment them. There was no difficulty whatsoever.
Okay.
Once the claim was identified and once they agreed in the settlement of the situation, I was very fortunate that I had an agreed value on the car, right? And within 7 days, Joe, they sent me out to check on the agreed value on the car. They were very, very helpful and very considerate.
And they didn't invoke the vermin line?
No, absolutely not.
Get out clause.
I understand, which may be of help to Joanne, that this is, believe it or not, a regular occurrence. Absolutely regular.
I said that to them on the phone, and she told me that it was a very unusual case. And I said, I think from my understanding, I said that I did believe that it was a regular occurrence and that it is, a massive problem, for people.
Okay, stay with us. Let's bring in Terry
that was
Flanagan.
dealing with my car. In actual fact, when mine was there, they had 2 other cars in their garage with exactly similar situations.
Okay, Terry Flanagan. We all know Terry from Mooney Goes Wild. Terry, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
Have you heard of a Pine Marten eating a car before?
No, certainly not in Ireland. I have heard of some instance of it in Germany, but not in Ireland. You have to think of the Pine Marten here. It's a native animal, but it's one of our rarest animals, as you said earlier on. Up to about the 20th century, they were fairly common, but from the 20th century on, their numbers plummeted due to hunting for their fur and loss of habitat and things like that. 1976, we had the Wildlife Act, and they're a protected species. The numbers have started to grow since then. They're not huge, but they have expanded throughout the country. They're a very, very shy animal. People might confuse them with mink. They are expanding. They're expanding in every county. They don't like humans. They don't want to come close to humans. They use old tree cavities for breeding dens and so on. They don't like open ground. They don't generally now come into houses. Their Irish name, for instance, is Coch Cream, so it gives you a good idea of they're very, very cat-like, and they like to live up in trees. They're solitary animals. They may occasionally come into an outhouse to breed. If there's more than one, if you hear more than one in a house, it's more than likely a family of them. They only breed once a year. They produce 2 or 3 young. They're omnivorous. But getting back to the idea of them attacking the car, it is very, very unusual. But some animals, even domestic cats, they're drawn to the likes of cars. They're drawn to the heat and maybe the scent of other cats, but they don't do damage as such. What I would ask Joanne is the car parked in a garage or is it out on the front?
No, it's parked at the back of my house,
it's not
private, a bungalow in Leitrim.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of ways in which you could prevent this from happening again.
Well, Terry, the problem is you can't get a new car.
And Terry, you're making them sound as well as though they're a very tame animal-like. I've come out and I've heard a friend of mine and a colleague of mine, they were in our house. They came down the chimney of our house. They've been at our bins. They're not tame by any stretch of the imagination.
They're not tame. No, they're not tame, Joanne, and generally they would stay well away from humans, and there's not large numbers of them throughout the country. But occasionally,
my car is parked right beside my back door, so that's not staying well away from humans as far as I'm concerned.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's very, very unusual. So I'm just trying to think of some ways in which you might be able to deter them in the future. I know that's not going to help
what do you think?
Moment.
Well, that's not helping me now.
Terry, what do you think?
My insurance company is... I was on to, as well, Conserve Ireland. I emailed Conserve Ireland. Now, I have no idea who's behind that or whatever, and my question was literally, are Pine Martens vermin? And I was responded with, no more than humans are.
No,
and my insurance
species.
company are telling me that they are vermin, and that is why they will not pay out on my insurance. I have fully comprehensive insurance. My car is absolutely destroyed. I carry my 4 kids in the car each and every single day. At the moment, I can see that the airbag isn't working on the passenger side. Because the wires have been cut.
If they've gone through the wires, that's probably the end of the car. Listen to Tony Bourne's experience with his Mercedes. Bernie, January this year.
New Year's.
Who ate your car?
A rat. Okay. The car was parked up. Came out to it New Year's Eve. It wouldn't start in the afternoon. So I said, okay. They were checking the battery, etc., etc. Couldn't get a mechanic the next day, but I said it's definitely not the battery. There's definitely diesel in it, etc., etc. Mechanic came out on the 2nd of January, but prior to him coming out, my husband just looked into the car to open it up and get it ready for the mechanic, and he'd seen that a rat had eaten through the back seat and was making his way to the centre section in the car. So the mechanic came and he said, "Oh, right, okay. He said, I'll check and see what happens. Obviously, it wouldn't start on the New Year's Eve because the rat had eaten through the loom. Okay?
Yeah.
So it was brought to a garage. It was taken away. And their evaluator came. I reported to the insurance company. They admitted, yes, it's covered.
Okay. And how did you know? How did you know it was a rat? A dirty rat. How did you know it was a rat, Bernie?
How did I know it was a rat? Well, I'll tell you. About 4 days, Christmas Day, my daughter had seen a rat in the garden, which is very unusual for us because there's nothing here. We have 2 cats. So I think I picked him up. Literally, he was a hitcher. And he was obviously trying to get home. I suppose home was the car because that's where he would have left his home place, wherever that was. But anyway, so I knew there was a rat, and you could tell it was a rat. Anyway, the rent-a-kill came as well because that's all part of the package for pest attack or whatever you want to call it by insurance companies. And they caught a rat within 24 hours.
Okay, and did you get recompensed? Insurance?
Yes.
Okay. And did they fight, quibble, or
they
argue?
quibbled over the price. They didn't tell me the car was written off. They caught me off the hop. Guy rang me to say, your car has been written off. I said I wasn't notified of that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a...
And much was your car worth?
About 23,000.
And much would the insurance company offering initially?
It was 24,000. He offered about 14.5.
And how much did you get after fighting?
22.5.
Well done.
Yeah.
But how much did the replacement car cost?
That's what we wanted to do, like for like. We kept saying it's like for like.
But the rat ate the central nervous system of the car.
Yeah, the loom of the car.
And the car had to be written off.
And the seats. There was leather seats in the car. So that was another.
Well,
Terry, but they sold the car. They took the car. They wrote it off. They paid up what they had to pay off. But they sold the car in the auction, in the scrappage or salvage scheme that there is. I think they sold it for about 10.5 grand.
Well, we don't know that. Do you know that?
Oh, I do know that because that's all part of what they ended up having to pay out. It's kind of a balance of.
Yeah, but did they say when they sold it, this car has previously been eaten by a rat?
Oh, I don't know. Well, you see, the thing is, all the parts are repaired.
Okay.
You know.
But Tony Bourne's point with the high-end Mercedes was worth 70k was that the company couldn't guarantee that the rat hadn't eaten into wires that they couldn't detect and that they couldn't guarantee the safety. Okay, Bernie, but your insurance company paid up. Well to go. Terry Flanagan. We know pine martens in the predaceous circle of life, they go after, is it grey squirrels?
Yes, grey squirrels. But they're also omnivores. They don't just eat grey squirrels.
I know, they eat berries and that. But so they do play, they have a, as most animals do and mammals, they have a role in the circle of life.
Absolutely.
Do rats?
Well, everything has a role.
Well, what role do dirty rats have?
Well, rats, people like say rats, or they say wasps. Why keep around wasps? They're all important for pollination, for getting rid of rubbish, for feeding on other animals that we may not like. If we take one animal out like a rat, we don't know what is going to happen then with the cycle of nature. So it's
why
it might be worth chancing it.
Well, why are we allowed to kill them?
Well, we're allowed to kill because there may be too many of them.
We're allowed to kill rats, but we're not allowed to kill pine martens because there's too
Absolutely
few
not.
of them.
No, they're protected.
And
species.
when are they? What are they called? Cubs or kits or whatever of a pine marten?
Yes, kits.
Kits. When are they normally born?
They're normally born in the.
Your line is breaking up, Terry. They're normally born when?
In the summertime.
Spring
and they're more active in spring or summer.
Well, I just wonder, was Daddy Pine Marten out? Oh God, was Daddy Pine Marten out looking for food for kits?
No.
Okay, can we get rid of that line, please? Whoever's ringing. Terry, so what? You know, Joanne thinks there may have been a fragrance of berries.
Yes,
through the car air freshener.
That could be true. If you wanted to sprinkle something around the car that the pine marten doesn't like, hot chili peppers or something like that. Or I've heard people mentioning things like take a bag of mothballs and hang them somewhere. Something that will irritate them will move them on.
Okay, but won't hurt them.
Won't hurt them, no.
And would they bite a human?
No, I don't think so. I mean, any animal, if it's cornered,
are you sure of that? Is it? Are you definitely sure? Because I wouldn't feel comfortable with driving around with it in the car as a little pet.
Like any animal that is cornered may attack. Of course they will. But if you don't go near them, they certainly won't go near you. In fact, an animal like a pine marten will stay well clear of you.
But why do?
Well, I've noticed even on the bins, like, you know, he can like the scratch marks that are on the bin, like, are unreal. Like, you know, the scratch marks, the chunks that are taken out of my car, like nothing aggravated this animal, like in my car. Like, there was no reason for him to start eating the leather upholstery. There's nothing to make him attack the roof of the car. Like, he has pulled down all the fiberglass in the car. Everything has been pulled out the roof. Like,
well, I would imagine.
Why?
I would imagine that. Sorry, go on.
No. I'm just like, if it's such a tame, quiet animal, why would it do that just all of its own accord when nobody went near it?
I can only think that it may have encountered the scent of another animal, maybe another pine marten, or something that it wanted to eat. That's all I can think of.
But you know, when rats need to gnaw, don't they, to keep their teeth down, so to speak?
That's correct, yeah, because they're rodents. The teeth continue to grow. That's why when kids and you have kids at home, you keep them as pets, so that you have to throw some blocks of wood or something into the cage for them to chew on rather than to do damage. That's why mice and rats do damage in houses. But
everyone, Terry, like pine marten, the photographs were tweeting that they are a fine-looking an animal or a mammal. They're a fine-looking animal. People like them.
They've got a lovely rich chestnut brown and that creamy yellow.
Yeah, and a lovely collar sometimes. Yeah. But everyone hates black rats.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, not everyone. Some people keep them as pets, and they have
black rats,
things like that. Black rats.
Do people
and white
keep pine martens as pets?
No, not that I know of. I don't know of anyone that has a pine marten as a pet. Well, first of all, because they're quite rare. There are only, I think, about 3,000 or 4,000 pine martens in Ireland, dispersed across the whole country.
But apart from being rare, like, if you were looking after it, why would people not house them as pets?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm sure
if you had a little area outside, and you know, if they're so tame and if they're quiet, and you know, they don't attack humans, and you know, if they have all these positive characteristics, then why not keep them as a house or an outdoor pet?
I don't think people do. If they're a wild animal, you're not allowed to keep one as a pet.
Well, so are rats, aren't they?
Well, rats are vermin.
Yeah, but you're after saying that people keep rats as pets.
You could keep a rat as a pet, but not a pine marten. I've never seen or come across anyone had one as
Joanne,
no, nor have I.
Joanne, did you say you saw some feces, scats? Is that what it's called? Scats.
Yeah, all over.
And what, Terry, could the scat be analysed to prove that it is a pine marten is the guilty party?
Yes, it could be.
Because is there any animal in Ireland that looks like a pine marten that could be guilty?
The only thing I could have thought of would be a rat.
No way, not with this tail. No way.
If she's seen the animal, she's happy that it's a pine marten. Okay. Then I accept it's a pine marten.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. No
so
way.
the pine marten is guilty, but he can't be charged.
His tail was nearly longer and bushier than he was. Like, it was.
And did he have a little coloured collar? Or breast?
Oh, God, Joe, I didn't get that.
I know, you were mortified. You were looking at the car.
I was absolutely terrified of him. Yeah.
Do they carry disease, Terry, like rats do?
No, nothing like rats. No. But again, if you were to get a bite from them, like if you got a bite from any animal, they could be carrying some bacterial infection. But certainly nothing like rats.
Okay. Terry, I know we have to go, but thanks.
Thank you.
Now, Joanne, you stay there because people want to help you. Terry Flanagan of the wonderful Mooney Goes Wild and One programme. Thanks indeed. Aileen Eglinton.
Hi, Joe.
How are you? Where are you? A friend in Austria. What happened? Who wet the car?
That's right. Erica Mott, a friend of mine in Austria, she was driving down the Brenner Pass and her car just stopped.
Right.
And it turns out it was a marmot.
A marmot?
Yeah. Apparently it's frequent over in Austria because they hide in the cars if people have stopped driving because they're lovely and warm in the winter time.
Okay, a marmot.
Yeah, and the marmot actually ate through all her electrics in the car.
Wow. And was the car a write-off?
No, it wasn't. They towed it and fixed it. It took a few days to fix it because of all the electrics. But I don't think she'd any problems with her insurance.
Insurance, that's the key now. That's the angle today. Okay, and if the car stopped in the middle of nowhere, was that not, especially the Brenner Pass, was that not...
It was actually, she was actually on Brenner Pass. She just had to pull in on the motorway. She was stuck totally in the winter time.
Okay, that's Aileen. Now time to Aileen's well-known PR person. Doug, thank you, Aileen. Padder O'Phelan, you describe yourself as ringing from the Baltic Sea end of Germany. So
that's right, Joe. I've talked to you a few times there before.
So welcome to our Baltic Sea end correspondent from Alemannia. Go ahead, Padder.
Alemannia. Yeah, Joe, just giving a ring in there about that lady and God love her. Yeah. No, normally over here, Joe, as well, you'd be covered by the insurance and they would do the car for you in 3 or 4 days. Like, there's no problem there. And we call it a Marder over here, which is very close to what they call it down there in Austria.
What is
normally
it?
What we do, a Marder, we call a Marder. And then what's new, which I hope doesn't get to Ireland, is the Marder Hund, which would be the Pine Marten dog as in the English version of it.
The what?
And it's a savage. Savage looking thing.
Spell that.
Huh?
The Marmot. Spell
Marmot it. Marmot dog. Then we would call it a Marmot Hund, as in HUND.
As in hound.
Yeah, but they're a ferocious looking animal altogether, Joe. I mean, they look nothing like the beautiful coat and all that's on the normal Pine Marten. This thing is a savage looking thing with all wiry type of hair sticking out of his head and 2 big teeth up front, you know. But they're seldom seen now. They come in over the border from Russia here to us. But I say the Pine Marten in that woman's car was trying to actually did the damage because he was trying to get out of the car, more than likely.
Yeah.
How
do you stop them getting
into
your car?
I don't know how, Joe. He must have got in when the door was open or something, because normally they come up just underneath the engine area. So what we do here is you go up to Woodies in Ireland and you get yourself a length and a breadth of mesh about 2 metres by 1 metre wide, with about a 2.5 centimetre mesh in it. And you slide that underneath the engine of the car, and he won't walk across that to go up into the engine of the car. He won't go in. He can't get from the engine of the car into the car because there's no way area unless he eats through the dashboard, which is most unlikely. They just eat the wiring, and that's how you stop them getting up, by putting the mesh underneath the car.
Okay, stay there. That's Padder O'Phelan on the Baltic Sea end of Germany. Geraldine McCarthy.
Joe, by the way, if you want, just to tell you, if they want to trap it, what you need to do is to get a trap. If it's in the house or in the car, or if anybody has it in the house, get a trap. One of the normal traps you would buy from one of the companies in Ireland. And what you do is you put a raw egg in the back of the trap, but you have to put the egg in with a gloved hand because he'll smell it otherwise. And that's how I caught the lad here that was in the house. But if they get into your attic, they're nearly impossible to get rid of.
What do you mean? You put the egg in, the raw egg in the shell, or you break it open?
No, you put just the ordinary egg in, the ordinary egg that you buy in the shop in, but you have to use a gloved hand to put it in.
So he doesn't get the human smell.
He'll smell it and he won't go in. But the mesh wire works perfect, Joe. I had it once here and no problem at all.
Okay, you're at the Baltic Sea end. We have a caller from the middle of Germany, south of Hanover. Geraldine McCarthy is our south of Hanover correspondent, and we'll be talking to her, Padder, after the break.
Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815.
Liveline on RTE Radio 1 with Kia. For more on our 212 offers, visit your local Kia dealer or log on to kia.com.
Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815.
Joanne's car, a 2013 7-seater Kia Carens, worth around at least 10 grand, probably more to replace it, has been eaten by a Pine Marten. She saw the attacker, and he not only spent one night, he spent 2 nights doing the deed in the car, and we've posted photographs on them at Joe Liveline and at RTE Liveline. You can see the damage yourself. She now has been told that the car is effectively a write-off, but the sting, so to speak, if the upset wasn't bad enough, is that the insurance company AIG insurers have said that they will not be covering because it was caused by a Pine Marten, which is vermin. but it's
Yes,
not.
Joe, that's exactly what
That's
they
what they
said.
said,
Yeah.
but it's not. As Terry
Yeah.
Flanagan pointed out, they're a protected species.
And I asked her, Joe, like how she was coming up with that assumption, and I asked her to tell me, was all wildlife animals vermin, and she said no. And I asked her, could she give me an example, because I was just confused, but she wouldn't give me an example, Joe. I have sent 2 emails asking them to confirm what they've said to me in writing. I've received no response from my insurance company at all. They haven't responded to my emails. They haven't sent on the letter to say that what they said to me on the phone. Nothing, Joe. I mean, they've just completely and utterly washed their hands of us. Like, they accept our money every single year with open arms, but then when something goes wrong, AIG definitely haven't looked after me in this regard anyway.
And that's a rodent, which is a rat, is an animal that has to gnaw to keep its dents, its denture, his teeth down, his incisors down. So a pine marten isn't a rodent in that sense, because he doesn't have to gnaw to keep his dentures down. Let's go to Geraldine McCarthy, our south of Hanover, middle of Germany correspondent. How long have you been living out there, Geraldine?
Hi, Julie. It's Shirley, actually.
Oh, Shirley,
Sorry,
okay.
Shirley. Yeah, Shirley McCarthy.
Okay.
Actually, my mom's listening. I've been here for about 25 years, Joe.
Okay.
Working in Hamburg and then further down south here. I work in Europe, so it's good fun.
And what?
But pine martens are a pest.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, big pest. 65
and
million. They cost over 65 million a year in Germany in car damage.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are they a protected species, surely?
They are a protected species. However, I was listening to one of your callers. There is a part of your car insurance that actually covers their damage in Germany. And I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but my car has been damaged several times by pine martens. My mechanic is great. He gives all sorts of funny tips.
Like what?
One of them is the mesh that you guys talked about.
That was your
the other one, I don't really want to say, but it's using your own water.
Oh, your own urine,
to
okay.
Spray around. And there's another repellent, I can't think of the name of it, but I'll have to send it in. And then there's an electronic system where you build up wires. He was doing it one day when I was in the mechanic's place. He was doing it for one car that had a lot of damage, over, I don't know, a couple of thousand a year, something like that. And I don't know if it works. He said that the reason they do it is because they think it's another pine marten's territory.
Yeah.
There's something in the gum or the rubber in our cars that drives them crazy, and they have to mark the territory, so they chew everything they can.
So AIG, the insurance company here, said, we never heard of that before, a pine marten eating your car. They smelled, I don't know, they thought they were smelling a rat or whatever, but they thought the pine marten. But you're saying in Germany it's quite common. It's so common that you could tell me the amount of damage they do every year is 65 million euro.
It's about 65. Yeah, that was in 2 years ago. Yeah,
and have they ever attacked your car, Shirley?
Yes, several times.
Oh, God.
It's not funny. You come out and you try to boot your car up a hill and it suddenly conks out in the middle. That was pine martens. They had chewed about 4 different tubes, feeding from the engine.
Shirley, what about electric cars, which are full of wires?
Yes. The problem is if you park in 3 or 4 different places in your forest, you're bound to get a pine marten. There's no guarantee against that.
Wow.
Yeah. Every time I park in a different place near a wooded area, there's a pine marten.
And any idea how many pine martens there are in Germany? We've about 3,000 here, apparently.
I have no idea.
I'd say we have lots more too, Joe.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know how fast.
And have you heard of the other ones that were being mentioned there by Pater O'Phelan, the Marmot Hund, a bigger version of that type of mammal or whatever?
No.
So anyway, okay, but it's so common that you say the figure is well known, and there are the insurance policy does have a rodenture, does have an indenture against vermin, and then there are lots of tricks and little tips people use, including your own PP, and I've yet to see that now in a garage with the different fragrances of strawberry and elephant's breath. I've yet to see the old urine fragrance, but anyway, it might work. Okay, Shirley, your mother will be proud of you.
Oh, sorry.
My Shirley
on.
was on the radio today, Bridie, and what was she talking about? She was talking to that dope, Joe Duffy, and he got her talking about her own urine. It's not what we United Europe for.
No.
Shirley, mind yourself. All okay?
How's
How's the pandemic wise there? Come back, Shirley, just for a sec. I asked everybody, how's the pandemic there at the minute? COVID and lockdown.
It's going well. They've vaccinated over, I think it's about 2/3 of the country now. Delta is spreading, of course, everywhere.
Yeah.
You can now go into different places, but they are, of course, giving a little bit more, what's the word in English? They're being more open to people who have vaccinations than people who are not vaccinated. There's a big party against it here, too.
Oh, is there?
Germans are very specific as regards wanting to protect, but there's a huge number of people who are against it, yeah.
Okay.
The anti-vaccinators, yeah.
They're
I think that's in every country, though, Joe. No.
Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well organised here.
And Shirley, have you managed to get home to see your sainted mother?
No.
Ah, God.
Don't make me homesick.
Oh, no. Well, and do you want to give me her first
2
name?
years.
You need, if you want to.
Which name?
Your mother's first name, or do you remember it at this stage? So long
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, okay. Well,
Elizabeth and Des, yeah.
And where's Liz and Des?
Brothers. They're in Galway.
Oh, okay.
We keep in touch through Joe Duffy.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm sorry for embarrassing you there. Okay, Shirley McCarthy, good to meet you, Shirley. And back after this break.
Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815. Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815.
It's the story of the Pine Marten that at Joanne's car, and the insurance company are saying the Pine Marten is vermin, so we smell a rat, so you're not getting your policy. You're not getting any compensation. Kevin Burns is in Switzerland.
How are you, Joe?
How are you, Kevin? You say that Switzerland, Germany, Pine Martens do attack cars.
What happens is, Joe, is that Bavaria, where I drive up to, there's a big problem with it. So every weekend when I drive up from Zurich to Bavaria, the Pine Marten will attack the car in Bavaria. So that's why I have to drive it into the garage every night. Because he'll smell the Pine Marten from another area. And this is coming into his area. Then it sets off alarm bells, and he goes in underneath the wheel, and then he can get into the car. And that's it's not attacking the car as such. It's actually smelling
the other fella, yeah.
As the other gentleman from Germany said, called a marder. And they smell that, Pine Marten, and then they want to protect their own territory, and they attack the car. Now, there's things you can do to prevent it. You can get sensors, sound sensors, and you stick them around the car or in the garden, so that when the Pine Marten comes out at night time, Joe, he'll get a pain, or there'll be some type of a pain, a signal that'll be sent to him, and then he won't go into that boundary. He'll keep to the outside of it.
And you were saying Pine Martens are very terrible. What that Pine Marten in Joanne's car was going after was another Pine Marten, we think.
I think, but you had a gentleman on earlier, Joe, and he said he bought a Mercedes, and he had it 18 months.
No, that was a rat.
So obviously, was it a rat?
Yeah.
Well, I think he would have heard. He would have that Mercedes came from a different area where there was a Pine Marten. He smelt it off that car and then went for it.
But Joanne's Pine Marten is he's chasing the other Pine Marten to get rid of him.
Right.
To try and get him out of?
No, he's smelling it. So when the car then goes back to wherever it comes back from, he's trying to get the other Pine Marten out of it.
Okay.
So it's really got to do with and it's when I go up there now, I'll be going up in another hour. Drive up there. I drive the car into the garage because if I leave it out, the Pine Marten goes up in underneath, and he'll eat all the fire blanket that's in the engine where you have it up inside the bonnet.
Yeah.
He'll tear that, and he'll tear the cables as well.
And has that happened to Kevin Bourne?
It has, yes. It has. When you come up in the morning time, you pick up the bonnet, and the whole blanket, that fire blanket that you have inside the bonnet, that's torn to shreds. And I'm lucky here in the other colours that nothing worse has happened. But
Okay.
and you'll see the drop-ins. You'll see the drop-ins all around the shed or the garage, especially in Bavaria or Germany or where there's wooded areas.
Are the scats like mice? No, it'd be bigger than mice droppings.
It's a little bit bigger and a bit blacker.
A bit blacker, okay.
Yeah, sorry not to be having this conversation on the radio. But
We're talking about every element. Kevin, you say so nonchalantly, I'm just about to drive up to Bavaria, you lucky person.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Is that for the weekend or something?
No. My sister and niece, they're there at the moment, and we drive. I work in Zurich, and then I'll drive up to Bavaria. It's 3 hours. I'll go up on a Friday, come down on Sunday, just for the summertime.
That'll be lovely up there, is it?
Gorgeous, nice drive through Austria and up to Bavaria.
Oh,
about 3 hours, lovely. Yeah.
And Kevin, just before you go, the pandemic in Switzerland.
The numbers are rising a little bit. You know, it's got 8 million people over here. The population.
Vaccination
smaller than Ireland, but they opened up a lot quicker, and you'd never see any stickers on the path or in the shops saying cover up or anything like that, as much as you'd see in Ireland.
Yeah.
So they've just got on with it, Joe, to be quite honest.
And what about live music, for example, or live?
It's funny, everything's open. Even the open air cinema down here at the Lake Zurich, they have the open air cinema from the 2nd of August to the 21st of August. There's 2,000 people in watching open air on the lake, the cinema, outside cinemas. So everything is more or less up and running. I don't think you can have big, huge football stadiums like we had last Saturday. But
well, we're having it this weekend again.
Well, and hopefully we'll have Mayo bringing back Sam Maguire back.
Yeah, that's
Mayo.
That's on the 11th, I think. But is that where you're from, Kevin?
I'm from Lewisburg, Joe. Yeah.
Oh, Lewisburg, beautiful County Mayo. Okay, listen, Kevin, you probably heard we've had a terrible car crash tragedy here near Ballinasloe last night. And
terrible,
four people have lost their lives, so God rest them and condolences to their family. Yeah. So safe driving, Kevin, safe driving.
Thanks very much,
and
Joe.
Kind regards, that's Kevin Burns.
Thanks very much.
And Kevin is in Switzerland about to drive into Bavaria, as you do. Champagne Chamberlain. Champagne.
Hello.
That is your first name?
It is, yeah.
As in the bubbly?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
God,
As in the bubbly.
Your family really celebrated when you were born.
They did. They haven't stopped.
Were they on the champagne?
I think so, yeah. I'd say so.
What a beautiful name. What a beautiful name.
Thank you. But my story, I have no car stories, but I have quite a lot of experience of pine martens savaging my hens and my ducks.
Wow.
And we live near a bog area, so it's an SAC, a special area of conservation.
And are you a farmer, Champagne?
I am. I'm a sheep farmer, and I have hens and ducks as well. And I've had numerous pine marten attacks, and they're vicious. Just to touch on the fact of them being, I certainly wouldn't think that they would be safe to be around at close proximity.
And when you say vicious, what
did
you do to your little hens?
They puncture they go for the jugular, they go for their necks, and they take their heads off. And they suck all the blood out of them. They're just not they're not a cute little furry little animal. And the other thing I wanted to highlight was that I would definitely question the fact there's only 3,000 of them in the country. Because the other night, I see 2 or 3 a week on our farm in daylight, not just at night time. I have 2 night cameras, and I've got lots of footage of them. Activity
and
at
they
night
are
time.
Pine martens, they're not mink or...
No, they're the pine martens. They're pine martens. And in fact, the other night, 2 nights ago, I was driving home at about 8:30, and one crossed in front of me, and which I've never seen 2 together. And then about 5 seconds after, a second one followed it across the road. And in fact, it went under my car, and I thought that was it. God, bye pine marten, but actually it made it through. So
the pine marten should use the zebra crossing. But Champagne, when you say they take the head off the hen,
they attack them, and they suck all the blood out. They're piercing their teeth.
And where are the other hens when this is happening?
Well, they're usually, I've got
terrified.
My hen house is now like a Fort Knox. I've got electric fence. I've got a fox light. I've got you name it, I've got it. And if they have any way of getting in, they'll get in. And they
couldn't attack sheep. They're too.
We had an incident which our local kennels reckoned it was the pine marten, where they had taken the heads off about 6 of our large lambs in a woodland area, which is where they would be, kind of where their habitat is. And they had they sucked the blood out of the neck kind of area, so there isn't blood, and they just take the head because they wouldn't be strong enough, obviously, to carry the whole carcass, the whole lamb. But we did have a couple of instances that about 4 or 5 years ago. But we live, as I said, on a bog. And there are definitely, I mean, I see them regularly on the farm. I see them in daytime. They're quite prolific. Now I see them more than I'd see foxes and badgers, put it that way. So I would really query that number of 3,000.
Okay.
That's really. I've no car stories anyway. Sorry about that.
Okay, no, you've added a lot to it. Well, what do you say to someone called Champagne when you're saying goodbye? You say cheers, Champagne.
Cheers, yeah.
Cheers,
yeah.
Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815. Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815.
Joanne was on earlier. A pine marten has eaten her car, destroyed her car, and the insurance company have washed their hands of it, so to speak, to say that's vermin and that's your hard luck. Michael Sexton is in Clare. Like pine martens.
Good afternoon, Joe. They're a vicious predator. I had experience with them.
They're not a cuddly little beautiful animal.
No. They're vicious. They're doing untold damage to the wildlife.
But there's not many of them in Ireland. They're protected
species.
There's
a lot of them. I would dispute in figures. There's an awful lot more because
there's
they're
2,700 of them in Ireland.
No, there could be 2,700 of them in Clare, I'd say. But I had experience about 10 years ago. I had 10 hens in a shed.
Okay.
And he cut the heads of all 10 hens and left it like an arbiter, blood all over the place. And they're doing untold damage to the wildlife, the birds. They're raiding the nest before even they're hatched.
Are you sure? But Terry Flanagan was saying they're omnivores. They love berries and cherries and strawberries and raspberries.
They go for eggs, and
yeah, that was.
They can climb a tree, sure, to get it up.
They can fly up a tree.
And they have no predator. There's nothing to kill them.
Oh, have they not? Well, no. Human, we can't.
And they're protected by the wildlife stuff, and they're doing more damage by protecting them because they're eliminating other species. You see, especially the ground birds.
But listen. One of the reasons why we protect the pine marten is that the pine marten goes after the grey squirrel.
Yeah, I heard that about.
And we're trying to get the grey squirrel depleted, to say the least.
Yes, but
to allow more red squirrels.
It's not the only thing he's going to go for. I know there's hardly any grey squirrels in Clare. They're usually around cities and parks and all them places.
But Michael, if you saw a pine marten head, have you still got a hen ark or a hen shed? If you saw a pine marten heading for your hen shed or hen ark, would you shoot it?
I would. No, I wouldn't. I would want him. I wouldn't now. I don't. I did a lot of hunting and shooting. I don't. I don't anymore.
Have you ever shot a pine marten?
No. Okay. No, I shot the foxes and all that stuff. But
I'd say they fly.
I don't shoot anymore because I like the wildlife now more than anything else. But
so what are you saying, that there should be a cull of pine martens?
Yeah, but they kill lambs too. Because I was talking to a person that had sheep, and they have a way for killing them with in the farms.
And you sure it's like, isn't the mink the one that does a lot of damage?
The mink is not a native to this country, and he's vermin. You can shoot him, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. But they have killed lambs, I believe, and I was talking to a person.
Yeah, that's what Champagne Chamberlain
and
was
saying. They had a way from catching them, which is very, very, very funny. They bury the pipe in the ground at about 2 foot at a slant and throw a fish into it, and you go in after it. That's how they got rid of them when they were killing the lambs. There's no sheep here around in West Clare, no, but I was talking to a person that had them.
Yeah.
And that was their method. But they're a vicious eye to do. We see the hens. He just chopped the head off of all of them, cut it off,
and left the carcass.
There. Yeah. I never can keep hens after it.
What you say, like an abattoir, it looked like?
Yeah, like an abattoir, blood all over the place. Yeah.
Oh, God.
But I dispute the figures. I said that many 2,700 in County Clare alone.
Okay.
They're along by the rivers and everything. There's very few nests of birds now by the rivers. They're even got before they're hatched to take out the eggs.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And by the way, apparently the young pine martens are born around July, August.
I don't know that now. Don't know that.
So that's we're in the middle of that now.
Yeah. But there
Okay.
are definitely plenty of them
How
there.
did you manage during the pandemic, Michael?
Was cocooning for a while, but we're getting around, and I live near beautiful Spanish Pine. I go for a walk there on the beach every day.
Good man.
And it's as good as any Lanzarote.
Of course it is. Have you any children or grandchildren? Or?
I have children and grandchildren, and you know that little phone call there, though, 3, they're advertising, how you're dead. Sure you know yourself.
Yeah.
That's me.
You say nothing. You know yourself. Your mother's after getting a Fitbit, and that's in the ad.
I have 10 grandchildren and another one coming. And if any more comes, I'll have to sell a second Shirley Bull calf for the present.
Well, hold steady, Michael. That's Michael Sexton below in
Milltown Malvern.
Milltown Malvern, beautiful.
Willie Clancy's town.
Great music.
Best town in Ireland.
Great music. Patrick Noons, you agree with Michael Sexton. You're in Offaly Kildare border. You think they're vicious little lads?
Oh yeah, there's no question or doubt in the world about it. They're vicious. They never leave a blessed tape around the place. I'm living in the one place, looking at the same fields, day in, day out for the past 40 years.
Okay.
And in the last 10 years,
right,
you never see a rabbit. You rarely ever see a pheasant.
Yeah.
That's right.
And when I was a youth, this place was covered with pheasants, covered with rabbits. We used to catch them years ago, and I remember well, we'd get 3 and 6 for a dozen rabbits.
And why do you not see rabbits or pheasants anymore in Offaly Kildare border?
Because they're gone. They've disappeared.
Why?
They've lifted them out of the nest.
Oh, there's a reason for it, I'd say. One time we had the mixo. That did away with a lot of the rabbits.
The mixomatosis, yeah.
Yes. But a vet told me, and I spoke to him about it, and he told me the mixo rabbits it was associated with a flea that the rabbit left in the burrows. And when they go back in, the flea had still picked them up.
Okay, well, where does the pine marten come into this?
Well, he'd be in to help them out, I'd say.
So you think it's the pine marten is killing the rabbits and the pheasants and their eggs?
Yeah, there's no question or doubt in the world. I even had a few fowl in shed twice, and the very same thing happened as that man spoke of there.
Michael Sexton, yeah.
Yeah, where the heads were eaten off them, and they were left there. And I even done the inside of the shed with net and wire. He still got out.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
And you sure it was a pine marten?
Oh, not doubt in the word about it. Yeah.
Michael, say there, Patrick, we're going to go across 2 counties to Michael McLaughlin in Tipperary. Michael, pine marten, and many hens did he kill?
Well, it was the slaughter. It was the slaughter of the innocents. There was 1 cock and 12 hens, and took the lot of them, killed all 13 of them, ate the heads off 2 of them, and just scattered the rest of them around inside in the shed, and that was it. Dreadful. Very sad.
Like an abattoir, as Michael Sexton was saying.
Yeah.
And how do you know it was a pine marten, Michael?
Well, I know for a fact it was a pine marten for a number of reasons. One, I've seen plenty of them around here, but secondly, they leave a very distinctive spoor or kind of a poo nearby where they're passing as their kind of marker. And on the stones, they usually do it on a stone or something slightly higher, and it's been left around the place. There's no doubt about it was a pine marten. I've seen them killed at the side of the road. There's forestry nearby. I've seen them when I'm walking the forest.
But they're an endangered species. They're a protected species and an endangered species. There's only 2,700 of them on the island.
That may very well be true, but I'll tell you, any hen that is near it is very endangered.
Okay.
You know.
And do they eat anything else?
No, just eat the heads off them and leave them behind. And I mean, a fox at least would have the decency to take 1 or 2 of them with him. But the pine marten simply just kills all in front of it.
And it's not killing them for the young, it's just for the kids at this time of year.
My understanding is that when they kill one, the disturbance then transfers to the rest of them, and it'll keep killing until it has stopped all of the agitation from the rest of the hens. So if it was 1 hen, it would kill 1. If it was 20, it would kill 20.
Good God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Savage.
And have your neighbours in Tip noticed damage from pine martens?
Oh, absolutely. But there is one solution to it that one particular gentleman I know nearby who keeps hens has done.
Mm-hmm.
He has cleared the area around the hen house completely,
Okay.
and has put down electric fencing, several strands of electric fencing. But he has to keep the area absolutely spotless so that the fence isn't earthless anywhere. And that is the only thing that appears to work to keep them out.
Yeah, but that would kill the pine marten. You're not allowed to kill them.
Oh, no, the fencing doesn't kill them. What you do is you hang a rasher off the lowest piece of wire on the fencing, and he comes along, gets a bite of the rasher, gets a whack of the electric fence, and he won't be back.
Okay. Well, listen, Michael say with us, David Chalk has a solution as well that doesn't involve electrification. David is in Kildare.
Hi, Joe.
Your company is called
DC Welding Supplies Limited.
Okay, and
I bring in products from Germany. I bring in products from all over Europe, actually. But in this particular case, it's a spray that you spray on the electrical cable or in any part of the car that the rodents would be eating, and it encourages them to leave it alone.
And what is it about the spray that encourages them to?
Well, there's an obnoxious smell of it anyway, and I'm presuming that the taste isn't much better.
Yeah, but why would you put that into your car?
No, you don't put it into your car. If you put it onto the smell is only there for while you're spraying it. But when it's actually on the cables, the smell is gone, but the taste is there. So I'm presuming that's the way it works. I tried it in one vehicle at home where I had a mouse in it, and I couldn't catch the mouse, and I couldn't see him, but I could see the remains of him or what he was leaving behind him.
Of course.
And I sprayed it in, and I never saw him again. So it has that effect on them.
And what's that product called?
It's called Marten Rouse, I think is the name. I'm not in
the office
at home at the moment.
Yeah.
So I can't go down and have a look at the tin. But there's a picture of a mouse or a pine marten on the front of it. So
okay.
That's they obviously have a bigger problem.
Where can people buy it?
They can buy it from DC Welding Supplies in Sallins, County Kildare.
Oh, you're online, are you?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, well done.
So there's no problem getting it. It's not a big seller, but it hasn't been.
Well, it might be now.
It could be, yeah. So.
And how much is it a can?
It's a tenner a can.
Okay, well then, Joanne's car, which is destroyed by a pine marten's cost. It's
costs a bit more than that.
Sure, 10 grand.
You know, so it's a product there that it's popular in Europe, but it's not so popular in Ireland. But
that's one of the reasons I presume is because there's so few pine martens we're told. Though the numbers are definitely changing. If our listeners
they certainly are.
And David, have you when people purchase this marten route, do they tell you stories about why they're buying it? Or are they just
it hasn't been selling very well because I got, there was no real need for it here up to lately.
Mm-hmm.
So I presume when you start getting the results of it. Now, I've only tried it myself. I brought it in for a different reason altogether, and it wasn't successful at that. But this is what it's designed to do.
Okay. That's DC Welding Supplies in Sallins, County Kildare. Thanks, David Chalk. Quick break.
Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815. Talk to Joe on 1850 715 815.
Well, whoever's the PR company for pine martens, after today's Liveline, they're going to have to fire them and get the PR company that does dolphins. Because there's nothing but negative calls about pine martens now. There's one positive I see, and we're going to get to it before the end. Edwards, you say the pine marten is very dangerous around
Yes, Joe.
Why?
Yes, Joe. Because if he gets into a hen house, he's not like the fox. He won't take one or two. He jumps on the back of their necks. He sucks the blood out of them. He kills everything in the house, and he goes away. And where we are here in Laois, we have ponds with ducks breeding on it in the spring, and we're gotten very low in ducks because he's depleting the young ducks and taking the eggs, and he's just a bad animal, Joe. Simple as that.
And the fact that he's cuddly and lovely colours. And...
Oh, no, he's not, Joe. No, he's not. He'd climb up a tree after birds. He can climb and get into a hen house up a pole, where a fox, you keep him out at ground level. This guy, you can't keep him out. Well, he stretches his body. He gets in through a small hole.
But you see, at the start of this programme, everyone's impression of pine martens was like dolphins. They're lovely, cuddly.
Yeah,
and now at the end of the programme, they're like vampires.
Joe, people that don't live in the countryside and don't have that, and never had that problem, don't understand.
Yeah,
there was a programme one night, Joe, on the telly about Scotland, and they were watching a nest, the duck's nest. This was on a few months ago, and they wondered why the eggs were going missing. And they put a camera on it, Joe. And they thought it was the otter, and the otter come out at night and went around, never touched it. Who come and took the egg? Mr. Pine Marten.
And
taking the eggs.
Have they ever attacked your fowl?
Well, they did in the past, yes, Joe. I don't have fowl anymore. They attacked turkeys.
Right.
Cock, the cockerel, the whole lot, killed everything on me. That's a few years ago. That's why I don't keep fowl anymore, Joe.
Okay, Edward, God.
They're a bad animal, Joe, and if you live in the countryside and you have fowl, you don't need a Pine Marten anywhere near you, and that is a fact.
Okay. Councillor Tom, thanks Edward and Laois. Councillor Tom Farrell, Fine Gael, in Westmeath, the Pine Marten is now becoming a party political issue. What happened? What's your story, Tom?
About 5 or 6 years ago, a Pine Marten entered my own house at home, where my grandkids were home from America and on holidays.
Right.
One was in a pram, and the other two were flying around the kitchen, and the Pine Marten just up the window and in, and hopped in. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, so we got everybody cleared out of the room, and we closed the windows. And I got my neighbour at the time, Johnny Lowry, to come down and have a look, and he told me it was a Pine Marten. So then we discovered that they were a preserved animal, that they were protected species. So we got the back door open and a side door, and we got them out and let them off. But then I started inquiring more into them, And at the time then, I just looked for a cull of Pine Martens. Yeah, because,
Did you get many votes with that campaign, Tom?
Well, I did. I got a lot because they had killed a lot of fowl and turkeys and whatnot around my general area at the time. We didn't know about it and nobody else. And then there was a campaign. There was Longford. It happened in Longford. It happened in Leitrim. Happened in Roscommon and Cavan. And
what was the reaction when you called for a cull?
Well, certain people absolutely went berserk, but most rural people were in agreement.
Even though we're told there's only 2,700 Pine Martens in Ireland, you want to cull them like mongrel foxes.
Well, I wouldn't say like mongrel foxes. Is where the saying is where you see one, you see three. They are an animal for the forestry.
Yeah, but I thought they were solitary. Stay there, Tom. Roger Mee's been holding. You befriended a Pine Marten. Are you sure, Roger?
Yeah. Yes, we did indeed.
And was this late at night?
Yeah, so we moved to the country, North Kilkenny, 2018.
Okay.
And I always sleep with the windows open because it's very warm. And I heard something trying to get in the window, and I panicked. I woke up in a fright. I shone my torch out the window, and I seen the Pine Marten, and he was standing on top of a little ledge, and he just ran away really quick. So we live in the middle of the country, so we decided, right, we need to get a night vision camera and put it down the woods. So we've woods down the back of the field, and we started feeding the Pine Marten and putting the night vision camera out every night. And we've loads of great footage, and he loves our leftover chips, our lasagna. He loves all that sort of stuff. To us, he's been doing no harm. They're nice animals.
He loves lasagna.
He loves it.
And chips.
Chips, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go back to Joanne just for a sec because she's still there. Started this credible assassination.
Well, I can tell you, Joe, I'll not be feeding my fella chips.
Well, was there a smell of chips in your car, I wonder?
No, there was not chips in my car, Joe. I'm on a diet.
Gavin Shipley to do me best. You're pro Pine Marten. Your quick point you want to make, Gavin.
Yes, good afternoon, Joe. Not unsurprisingly, this entire discussion is about the impact that Pine Martens have on humans. Humans are the most invasive, destructive species of all, posing a risk to the survival of every other species on the planet. Pine Martens aren't. Now, I don't want a Pine Marten in my car, so I'm not disregarding what that earlier caller said. I don't want them in the house. I have seen them, I have come across them many times. But ultimately, we just seem to treat animals as an inconvenience or something to be corralled.
Well, he is an inconvenience when he destroys your car. He is an inconvenience.
Okay, got to leave it.